Welcome back to the garden. Hello, Poppy. You been to the barber's? There was a lady want to know exactly what variety you were. Yeah, we don't quite know, do we? All we can tell them is that you were a rescue dog from Romania, weren't you? And you're having a lovely life, aren't you? In fact, you're going to take one of my peas, aren't you?
She loves peas.
You mischievous little thing, you. There's only one rule here. If you're going to take them, eat them. Good girl.
She's got it. Good girl, Poppy.
What I am just trying to do is just take a final harvest of the peas, any that are straggling. There are still one or two about that are looking half decent. One of the things that we did do is that we've planted some peas up the top on a wigwam. We've got some down the other end of the garden as well, which we're trying to save as seed. And they can remain on that plant until, you know, they've gone the way that we want them. But I just wanted to show you, because there was one up here. I've got that one, Poppy. So this really is what you're looking for when it comes to a pod saving seed. You can see it's got a very brown colour and it's leathery and soft. So that's going over, and we can actually, as we now take these peas down from the arch, we can put these to one side and then probably just put them on our windowsill, can't we? Just to finish off.
Yeah, just to dry out.
Yeah, just to dry out. And then we'll have free seed for next year's peas. And hopefully, because it's grown in our garden before, they'll germinate much, much better than these that we tried to get to germinate this year. And this is a free resource for you. We've got a bit more about that coming up in a future video. Now, what I would say is that Scylla is actually having a lovely rest, isn't she?
She is. Hello, Scylla. Are you asleep again?
Well, what I would say is that we've had the most amazing harvest off this pea arch. We really have. How many bags full did we get?
Oh, 3 big
bags.
bagfuls.
We'll show them a picture towards the end of the video of our amazing pea harvest for 2023. Now, in today's programme, we've got a couple of 3 things that we need to do. We want to take these plants away now, and they need to be replaced by our French beans and our runner beans. We've also got a bit of work to do on the brassicas that we planted up in plot 4, where the cover is a bit on the short side. We put it on there initially because the plants were small, but it needs to be raised now. And I know, James, I know that you wanted to see exactly how we make our cloches that go over our plants. So you'll see all that coming up in today's video. See here where the peas are actually dying off. They're coming to the end of their life. It's a good time to get these off, and we do need to get our beans over this arch. However, I'm encouraged, not for you guys out there, but I am encouraged by some of the things that I've heard where people have already started to grow their runner beans. They went in, you know, like we normally would 6 weeks ago. Because of the cooler weather, the harvests haven't been so good yet. So I'm hoping that just because ours are going in really quite late for us, we're still going to get a bumper harvest.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
We're just going to be playing catch up.
But that's for the future. For now, we need to remove these. And all I'm going to do is using a pair of secateurs is just to cut them off at the ground. Because I want to leave the nodules in there, even though legumes are going back in here, but any nitrogen that is still within those roots, they can take advantage of. Of course, once they're cut, you can start to pull them out. And of course, all this material, it can go on to the compost heap. There's still some green left in the leaves, so that will be classed as green. But if you look where I've actually broken the stems, they are really quite fibrous now and woody. And that would be classed as brown. So if you can then chop these up into the right size, like this, you can put those all into your compost bin and you'll have a nice mix of browns and greens.
Quite a lot of food for the beast there. And the garden looks so open now that has disappeared as well.
Hello and welcome to your jobs from February. Not really. But it looks like going back to February, doesn't it? It's bare. And now we need to get some more things growing up. You'll have seen from the montage that we put together that strip the peas off, and now it's time to get our beans in. And this year we're growing runner bean, Lady Di and White Lady. And one or two of you have asked me about, you know, what about the firestorm? Yeah, we grew that last year and we're very happy with it. But Mrs. W does like to have a little bit of a change. And of course, with her being a Libra, she likes this arch to be well balanced. So you'll see later on in the year that there'll be red flowers on this side, white flowers on this side, with just a single strip of purple flowers from our French beans, our French climbing bean, Cobra.
I think it'll look very pretty.
I'm sure it will. But as I said, Charlie and I, we like to do food. Now, a lot of people always say to me, oh, something's gone wrong, you know, this is, you know, it hasn't worked. And you know, it doesn't matter how experienced a gardener you are, things will always not always turn out the way that you planned. Hello, Poppy. Hello. And the thing is, we need to roll with it and come up with an alternative plan. And going all the way back to the start of the year, if you've got your garden plan and you know what you're going to be doing, you know it can be flexible and you can decide what you're going to do. So originally, peas would have gone in here by the end of March. That just didn't happen. We had terrible problems trying to germinate the peas this year. And they actually didn't go in until the back end of April. Hence why we have no beans in here yet. And just lately, our summers have been very dry and hot. But it's not been the case this year. So, I'm very hopeful that even though we're planting these quite late, we will still see a reasonable harvest. And I always say to you all that always have plants ready. And that's what myself and Mrs. W have done. We sowed the beans probably 4 weeks ago now, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe even 5.
Oh, I think it could be 5.
Because we thought the peas were going to finish a little earlier, but the harvest was so good that we just kept it going. So, unlike myself, I sowed them in much bigger modules, and that was so that they had enough food to sustain themselves until we could get them in. So these are the White Lady, and I'm just going to make a hole big enough in order that we can plant this module. And I know that one or two of you have also done your own pea and bean tunnel. But if you are new to doing it, I think this is a really good idea. The one thing I would always say is that always try to make sure that you can angle the plant back toward the tunnel. Don't put it in upright, and that'll give it a chance then to get its tendrils around and wind its way up. And that's all we need to do. Look at that, Mrs. W. We'd have never been able to do this 3 years ago. No. It just simply wouldn't have happened. And again, angle it towards your tunnel or your structure, because if you haven't got a tunnel, even if you are just putting an A-frame up, you still want to encourage them to grow that way. We have about 24 of these to put in, Mrs. W.
We do.
Better get on with it.
You do one side, I'll do the other.
Fine by me. And that's our beans in. So, what we did do is give them a good watering afterwards. And actually, after I'd planted the first 2, we found as we came further up the garden it was a little bit drier, so we actually watered those holes as well. Just as we explained in our watering tips video. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen that yet, then do go back and watch that one, and we give you our top tips for coping with watering throughout the year. Now, one thing I did just want to do is to check this brassica bed. And for one reason or another, we've been quite busy doing things, we'd forgotten about this bed, and you can see how close this netting is to these plants.
The leaves are actually pushing the netting up, aren't
yes. They? And what the cabbage white can do, it can lay its eggs through the netting. Even though this is a really fine netting, it can still do that. And the reason why I think that it is that is because if you look at these cabbages here, they aren't softening the same way. But their leaves are not touching the top. So we're just going to get underneath here and just have a look, and if we find any caterpillars, then we shall deal with them. And we shall put some taller hoops in place, which is really quite ideal because I know that James left us a comment a couple of videos back and asked if we could show how we make these cloches. So it's an ideal opportunity to be able to get that on film. Oh, our Eskimo carrots are through, Mrs. W.
I noticed them yesterday.
You can see two nice rows.
Yes, just show. I'll see if I can pick them up on the camera. Hopefully I can. Hopefully you can see those in there, guys. Can I? Actually, I probably can lift this up so you can see them better. There they are. Winter carrots on their way.
So you want to be checking the underside of your leaves to find these. There's the caterpillar.
That's not a cabbage white, and I don't think that's a...
No, it's not a cabbage white, is it?
I don't know what that's from. That's not,
Perhaps if anyone else out there who's watching knows what that is, do drop us a comment in the comments box.
Have we got any more anywhere? Oh, I think I can see. Can I? No, can't. No.
There's another one. So thankfully there are not lots in here, but if you see these kind of markings on your
you can see where one
leaves.
of them are patched there, look.
Oh yeah.
Can I pick that up? Yes, there. And it's obviously eaten some of it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the cabbage moth and not the...
Yeah, could be, because the devastation is not there. Normally a cabbage white butterfly really does. So depending on what we're growing, we have different sized hoops. These ones were put on temporarily when they were small plants. We just forgot to remove them. We use these green plant supports to put this blue plumber's piping over. And I'll leave some links down below in the description so that you can go to where we bought it and have a look yourself. So all we do is put it over the top, and you can see that's now going to raise that up to here now. Now, of course, you'd normally get this right long before these plants get that tall. But even now, it's quite easy just to change them. We better get some netting over these.
Well, I think we should, because looking at the sky, I think it's going to rain any minute.
So that's looking a lot better, and you can see it's much taller now. So whatever does land on there can't lay it on the top leaves. Now I've just had to just quickly run inside because it's now starting to rain quite heavily. We've got a lot done today. We've got the beans in, or the peas out and the beans in, sorted out that plot 4 there, and we've found hopefully all of those little green caterpillars that were there. We'll continue to keep looking at that over the next 2 or 3 days, just in case any more appear. But we have got rid of 1 or 2 from them. Can't see any eggs, so hopefully no more of those have gotten in there. And of course we've managed to raise that netting, which should make things a lot better. Now, do leave us your comments down below. Let us know how you're getting on. Have you seen any of these types of caterpillars? Be most interested in that and see what your experiences are of that particular caterpillar. I do hope you have a good rest of your gardening week, and we shall see you next time.